for Manchester United. Fabulous goal as well. Great play by Christian Eriksen, playing it in behind, but he had so much to do, the Argentinian. He had Decordova Reed coming from his right, he had Bernd Leno blocking off that near post, but just with his left foot, slashes at it onto to that far right corner and wins the game for Manchester United now, surely. Verde to Vinicius Junior, and Real Madrid have scored! By the Brazilian, who we said pre-match could be one of the match winners in this game, and it could prove to be, as the team celebrating on Real Madrid, as the sea of white shirts inside the Stade de France go wild, and it's their first real meaningful attack of the second half, which has been put away by Vinicius Junior. 58 gone, Liverpool 0, Real Madrid 1. Could like to be striking twice from the final from 4 years ago in Paris.
Well, you did say the only thing about Fede Valverde was his lack of assists, and that was a fantastic ball across the box to find Vinicius Junior. I don't know where Trent Alexander-Arnold was. He left his man, one of the danger men for Real Madrid, free as a bird. It's going to be very tight if there's a VAR check on this. I think he's just onside. But Trent Alexander-Arnold leaving him, I said it in the first half, the freedom of the city of Paris. It was Mo Salah in the first half. It's Vinicius Junior in the second half. And Real Madrid sucker punched Liverpool.
There is just something about this competition and this team that just goes hand in hand. Who said romance was dead? And Zinedine Zidane is in the crowd, a man who knows all about Real Madrid, knows all about this stadium, doesn't he? Given he scored the winner in the 1998 World Cup final, 2 of the 3 goals anyway against Brazil. 24 years later, he could be witnessing Vinicius Junior be a match winner in this stadium for Real Madrid, as they look like they're going to be winning their 14th Champions League as it stands. And it just goes to show, doesn't it, whilst Liverpool didn't put their chances away, Thibaut Courtois' saves in those first half have proved to be even more decisive and even more crucial as it stands, as Benzema has been unable to find Ferland Mendy. But how do Liverpool go about it now, Billy? Because it's been a real sort of opening 15 minutes of this second half where they have looked a little bit lacklustre, not really been able to get the same form or same sort of rhythm as that sort of first 15-20 minutes of that first half.
They just need to stick to it.
They didn't react quickly enough, but they could be in on goal themselves here. Bruno Fernandes as well on side.
Walker, Aymeric Laporte and Riyad Mahrez all start. Leicester, it's their first match since the arrival of interim manager Dean Smith. He hands only a second Premier League start of the season to Caglar Soyuncu. Manchester City will be seeking a 10th successive victory across all competitions when they host relegation-threatened Leicester in the Premier League this evening. A win for City would also see them move to within 3 points of league leaders Arsenal. This game comes sandwiched in between the two legs of their Champions League quarter-final tie with Bayern Munich, and Pep Guardiola has opted to rotate his lineup as a result, making 3 changes. Kyle Walker, Aymeric Laporte and Riyad Mahrez all start. For Leicester, it's their first match since the arrival of interim manager Dean Smith. He hands only a second Premier League start of the season to Caglar Soyuncu. Manchester City will be seeking a 10th successive victory across all competitions when they host relegation-threatened Leicester in the Premier League this evening. A win for City would also see them move to within 3 points of league leaders Arsenal. This game comes sandwiched in between the two legs of their Champions League quarter-final tie with Bayern Munich, and Pep Guardiola has opted to rotate his lineup as a result, making 3 changes. Kyle Walker, Aymeric Laporte and Riyad Mahrez all start. For Leicester, it's their first match since the arrival of interim manager Dean Smith. He hands only a second Premier League start of the season to Caglar Soyuncu. Manchester City will be seeking a 10th successive victory across all competitions when they host relegation-threatened Leicester in the Premier League this evening. A win for City would also see them move to within 3 points of league leaders Arsenal. This game comes sandwiched in between the two legs of their Champions League quarter-final tie with Bayern Munich, and Pep Guardiola has opted to rotate his lineup as a result, making 3 changes. Kyle Walker, Aymeric Laporte and Riyad Mahrez all start. For Leicester, it's their first match since the arrival of interim manager Dean Smith. He hands only a second Premier League start of the season to Caglar Soyuncu. And it's a very warm welcome along to our independent off-tube studio commentary of this huge match that affects both ends of the Premier League table. Manchester City, having won 9 games on the spin across all competitions, looking to close the gap at the top of the table to leaders Arsenal down to 3 points with a victory over a Leicester side that start the day second from bottom of the standings, with a new manager in charge as well, Dean Smith having been appointed on an interim basis until the end of the season. A win today would lift the Foxes out of the relegation zone, but away at this City side in their current form, that is going to be a huge ask. It's myself, Tom McGarry and John Hogan talking you through this evening's coverage. The match has got underway, and John, City irresistible at the moment, brilliant against Bayern Munich in the week. This is a huge task for a struggling Leicester side.
Yeah, it's massive, but do you know what? They've got a bit of form, and I mean, they've done it before. They were just showing highlights of their 5-2 victory, at this venue. Leicester, goals for Vardy and Tielemans and Maddison. All those guys are still there, and Vardy's playing today. It's hard to imagine, though, isn't it? It just does seem that Man City have turned it on. I think they've got to be favourites now for Champions League. In the league, maybe they've given up too much ground to Arsenal, but because Arsenal's still there to aim at, I think they've really got the bit between their teeth.
Yeah, they have. Pep Guardiola says they need to win this game. If they lose it, then they're out of the title race. So City certainly aren't underestimating what is at stake in this game, which comes sandwiched in between the two legs of their Champions League quarter-final tie with Bayern Munich. The return match at the Allianz Arena is on Wednesday, but all focus on this game for the time being for City, who are, as you would expect in the opening couple of minutes of this game, already stamping their authority on it in terms of possession. All the action so far has been happening inside the Leicester City half, as Jack Grealish on the left-hand side combining with Kevin De Bruyne for City. Early left-footed ball from him towards the far post, exquisitely brought down by Riyad Mahrez, who tries to pick out Erling Haaland in the middle, but the returning Caglar Soyuncu, one of 4 changes made by Dean Smith today, is able to clear the ball away. He does it again there, denying Kyle Walker's cross into the box. Soyuncu making just his second Premier League start in a year. Comes straight back into the 11, but already, John, this is looking a little bit ominous for Leicester. They're camped inside their own defensive third, and City are strutting their stuff.
Yeah, I don't really understand it, to be honest with you, because Vardy's in there. How's he going to score from where he is at the minute? You know, he's in his defensive third. They all are. He's asking a lot. I thought Vardy's in there today. That bit of pace, maybe get a run at Diaz and Laporte. You know, and still Kyle Walker's in there for insurance. So they've got 3 men covering their 1 striker at the back, but they don't need him. You know, and then they're just absolutely dominating. The thing is about these players is that, all right, it might be difficult to play through, you know, a low press or a low block, that kind of thing, but they're good enough, aren't they? We already saw that control from Mahrez, superb. He's been brilliant recently. You know, Grealish has been brilliant. De Bruyne is brilliant. There's just too much there, isn't there? And I don't think how defending deep is really going to help them out today.
Yeah, then they've got a certain 30-goal striker in Erling Haaland. That's in the Premier League as well, leading the line. There isn't many weaknesses to City, particularly going forward for Leicester. John just mentioned Jamie Vardy, 20-30 yards inside his own half, doing the defensive work, trying to close down Rodri at the moment. City moving the ball from left to right. It's passive from Leicester from a defensive point of view as De Bruyne, suspicion of offside, but play goes on. Grealish, corner of the Leicester penalty area, over on City's left-hand side. De Bruyne then releases Bernardo Silva, whose clip ball towards the far post might come the way of Mahrez. Superb touch from Mahrez. Second effort is blocked behind off the heels of Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall for a Manchester City corner.
They've already got around the back a couple of times. Look at Mahrez's first touch there. I mean, it's superb. Just buys him time. You know, these players are too good to be playing that close to the Leicester City goal.
Mahrez whipping in this resulting corner. Wout Faes is there to head it clear for Leicester. Grealish helps it back into the penalty area. Leicester struggling to clear their lines. It'll drop to Stones on the volley. What a goal from John Stones on his left foot. Edge of the area. Caresses the ball into the back of the net beyond the outstretched dive of Daniel Everson in the Leicester goal. It's been coming since second one in this game, but less than 5 minutes on the clock. Manchester City lead Leicester City by 1-0.
This is a case of how not to, Tom. But I tell you what, I mean, what a goal. I mean, Stones is absolutely elated, and I want to go out there and hug him. You know, and what a goal. Left foot volley from John Stones. We know he's a decent footballer, you know, and only he can play that inverted right back position because he's a footballer and he plays him through the middle and he trusts him. But that is just a delicious strike. It sits up nicely, doesn't it? But he said he wouldn't even have fell off his boot. He's hit that so sweetly. But Leicester wanting to, you know, defend in front of their own box just doesn't work out.
Yeah, Leicester have got exactly what they deserve at the start of this game, and so have Manchester City. It's a textbook volley on your wrong foot, isn't it, from Stones? He controls it. He doesn't try and lever it too hard. He just strokes it beyond Everson, who can get nowhere near it. It's a really, really nice Manchester City goal. But they've not had to work too hard to get themselves in front, and already Dean Smith's game plan in his first Premier League match in charge of Leicester, he's going to have to tear that up.
Well, I don't know. I just think, you know, it could have been after Lord Mayor's show for Man City. They were brilliant in midweek, and obviously that takes its toll, you know, physically, but I think more so emotionally. You know, you hit that high, and then it's very difficult to sort of reimagine that and go again. With Leicester, we should beat Leicester, you know, and even though they wouldn't have said that, in their own brain you kind of think, ooh, you know, it should be a bit easier. But then what do Leicester do? Just invite you to have shots in, and that's going to be too easy for them. You know, I looked at the team and I thought, well, they've got Maddison and Vardy to try and nick a goal today, but they're going to have to do a little bit more than that now. It's just, you know, it's too big a chasm, and like I said, how is Vardy going to score from where he is right now, which is below the centre circle? Just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's a very negative game plan so far from Leicester. They're a team lacking in confidence, and at the moment they're getting picked apart at will as Jack Grealish on the left-hand side for City just rolls it into the feet of Aymeric Laporte. Back out it goes to Grealish with space down the left-hand side. He drops a shoulder, cuts in field, can't quite shift it across the edge of the penalty area to Rodri, but Leicester just panicking, just anywhere will do at the moment. It's as if they're hanging on with 5 minutes to go, not 7.5 minutes into the contest, and again they're remaining deep.
Well, Vardy was in there nicking the ball inside his own box, like, oh, great defending, and it was, don't get me wrong, but then when the ball's chipped out, there's no Vardy to get in the enemy, so it comes straight back, and here comes City again.
Yeah, just winding through the gears once more. It's comfortable for City. They've only made 3 changes from the side that beat Bayern Munich during the week convincingly in the first leg of their Champions League quarter-final. Pep Guardiola might have been tempted to freshen things up after, as you mentioned, the emotional and physical exploits of that game, and with the return leg to come this midweek. But just the 3 changes, sticking with the majority of the players that did the job against the German champions. Rodri, who got the game running in midweek for superb opening goal, just trying to squeeze that out to the left-hand side. City, every loose ball is coming back to a player in sky blue. On this occasion, De Bruyne, who feeds it into Grealish, who goes down right on the edge of the area, about fast with the challenge. The referee, I think he's given a corner rather than a free kick or a penalty. Grealish is incensed. He feels, at the very least, Manchester City should have a free kick.
Well, let's take a look. He's through his legs. Fast comes out because he wants to nick the ball, but he doesn't get to the ball, and he clearly leaves a mark on Grealish. It's a free kick at the edge of the area, and I think maybe not a yellow card, but definitely a free kick.
Yeah, VAR won't be able to intervene because it's outside the area, but you can understand why Grealish is frustrated. Darren England is the referee, incidentally, today. Grealish is still letting his feelings be known, shall we say, towards the match official. And of course, it's a hot topic of debate at the moment as the resulting corner is swung in. It's palmed down by Everson, drops to the edge of the area. Mahrez swings high at the ball, pinballing around inside Leicester's 6-yard box. Eventually, they hack it clear. It's desperate defending from the Foxes, and have still got more to do. Bernardo Silva back to Mahrez on the right-hand side. He tees up Kyle Walker, resists the temptation to put the ball into the box. Kevin De Bruyne will instead switch it out to Grealish on the left-hand side, up against Castagna, taking on Castagna, beating Castagna just about, although credit to the Belgian. He gets back, diverts it behind for a corner, although City are suggesting that may have struck his hand.
Something like that. And Grealish having a word with the referee, saying you missed one, a really clear and obvious foul at the edge of the area, but you'll have to let that one go, really. City, a goal, it could be 2 or 3 already, couldn't it? Was that a handball in the box there from Leicester's point of view? We're looking at that. I think that's going to be a penalty, A hand came out, it's above shoulder high, it's outside the T-shirt and all that. I think we're going to get a penalty now. Yeah,
it's Wilfred Ndidi, the Leicester player in question. The ball went beyond Castagna and it struck Ndidi's arm. It was up in the air, head height. It's not intentional. You could argue it's a natural movement of the arm, but it does strike the arm. It stops the ball going into the penalty area, and Darren England is now coming across to consult the video screen on the sideline, and we know what that normally means. This, as you say, is probably going to be a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, once you could say he's flung his arm up, but it absolutely looks damning when you look at the slow-mo. A ball hits an arm that's above his shoulder, hand, it's as clear as anything. And I'm afraid it's a penalty. I can't find a way out for him, I know that it's sort of a natural movement for him. He's going for the ball to get propulsion, your arms come out, but his hands above his shoulder, it hits him on the hand. It stops it going to one of the City boys in the middle. Maybe that's a simple tap-in. It's got to be a penalty.
Yeah, and penalty is awarded after 5 or 6 replays. Darren England comes to his decision. No complaints from Ndidi. He'll know the ball struck his arm. It is unfortunate in a lot of ways because I don't think there's any real intention there. But in this day and age, with the way the handball rule is, I think that was always going to end up in being a Manchester City penalty. Dean Smith querying the decision with the 4th official, but
he said, I didn't see it.
Of course. Less than 12 minutes on the clock, though, or bang on 12 minutes just about now. Erling Haaland is the man with the ball. For his 31st Premier League goal of the season, up against Daniel Everson. This would double City's lead. It would be a perfect start for Pep Guardiola's side. A nightmare for Dean Smith in his first game in charge of Leicester. But what can Erling Haaland do? I don't think there'll be many backing against him.
to not find the back of the net as he takes 4, 5, 6 steps backwards. Left-footed Haaland against Everson, low into the bottom corner, into the side net. Everson, to his credit, guessed the right way and wasn't a million miles off making the save, but that was clinical, as you would expect, from Erling Haaland.
Yeah, big run up there. He knew where he wanted to put it, and he hit it hard enough, didn't he? The Norwegian beats the Dane, and you know the arguments continue. But Dean Smith set his men up defensively. They've had to defend, and they haven't done it well enough. City are absolutely on fire, though. That much is true. But then I think you try and play on the weakness of the opposition. If you want to defend, sometimes it's better off defending in their half further up the field. I just think this is a masterclass of how not to, and I can't imagine Dean Smith's going to be getting this job long term. But then I don't really understand why they let Brendan Rodgers go. I thought they were playing well. I thought they needed a little bit in a way like Crystal Palace teams, and he sort of played in 4-3-3 almost, something like that, but always had players forward, to back themselves on a day where the opposition backs off a little bit or they don't take their chances. You give yourself a chance. Leicester giving themselves no chance to score goals today.
Yeah, it's been one of the most passive openings to a game from a Premier League team I've seen for a long time, and it could be a very long, 80 minutes or so still for Leicester to face. It's time to turn things around, I suppose, but it's very difficult to take any positives from what we've seen so far from Leicester City. And Manchester City look like they're going to be closing the gap on Arsenal to 3 points at the top of the Premier League standings and making it a 10th win in a row across all competitions. It would also be their 11th straight win at home since the turn of the year, turning Etihad into very much a fortress, as John Stones, who's got their goal scoring up and running this afternoon, or this evening, wants the ball into the feet of Ruben Diaz, and now across to Aymeric Laporte. Jamie Vardy, just about for the first time in the game, is inside the opposition half. Manchester City in very comfortable possession and very relaxed at the moment. I mean, there's not really a side in world football that it's worse to concede 2 early goals against than Manchester City. I mean, they can just keep the ball all night now if they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Leicester have had nothing, have they? And even when they do win the ball, then they're looking forward, and all of a sudden, Vardy's got to, run 50 yards just to be there. And apparently he's got to go back and defend that. They lose the ball immediately, and then they're back to where they were, and everyone's got to drift back. That ain't going to get them a goal. They're 2-0 down. Too late for that. Too late for, let's keep it tight, lads. Incidentally, Corach Rambler won the delayed Grand National. That was the favourite. It's not really what you want, is it? Favourites winning Grand Nationals anyway. It is what it is. At least they got the race off, albeit delayed. I bet Leicester wish this had been 15 minutes delayed, because in the 15 minutes we've had, they've gone 2-0 down, and quite frankly, you said it's about as toothless a start to a game for any team. They've been bowled over, but they're architects of their own doom, and only now Leicester beginning to hold the shape over the halfway line.
Yeah, trying to press City inside the host zone half, and why they weren't doing that in the opening 10 minutes of the game when it was still 0-0, I'm not really sure. Favourites winning in the Grand National, and favourites very much on top in this game. Manchester City have had 89% possession so far, a statistic that I'd imagine is increasing at the moment because they're moving the ball around from right to left at will, as again Leicester go back into their defensive shell. Grealish on the left-hand side releases Bernardo Silva, deep cross towards the far post. Kyle Walker's the furthest man forward. He can't quite tee it up for Riyad Mahrez. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall is there to hook it out of play for a throw-in, which Manchester City take quickly. They're sensing blood. They want to get these 3 points wrapped up as quickly as possible, and then potentially Pep Guardiola can look at wrapping plays in cotton wool for the Bayern Munich match on Wednesday, as Yuri Tielemans there, a frustrated, lazy, poor challenge, whichever way you want to look at it, needlessly brings down his man and presents City with a free kick opportunity in a dangerous area.
Yeah, and that Tielemans got the captain's armband on. I didn't quite see there, but anyway, Dean Smith's appointed as captain today. Just looking through the field. There's an awful lot of defending to do. I don't think I want to be skipper in this shambles.
I don't think you would. I don't think many of those Leicester players look like they're enjoying being out there at the moment, in truth, as Mahrez
and De Bruyne to stand over this free kick on the right-hand side. De Bruyne lifts it into the area, not his best. It's cleared away at the front post by Dewsbury Hall and out of play for a throw-in rather than a corner. De Bruyne himself will take it and gets the ball back from Mahrez. City keeping the tempo high, crossed into the box. It's cleared away by Fass. A rare touch for James Maddison now in the middle of the park, and maybe Leicester can look to break forward. Dewsbury Hall miscontrols, but then wins his challenge with Kyle Walker, but pretty much being asked to do it all himself, and he eventually loses out. Leicester will bite back and momentarily win possession. It's the first time we've seen a Leicester player really put in a challenge in this game, but unfortunately for them, Manchester City still come away with the ball and the space for Aymeric Laporte down the left-hand side, supported by Jack Grealish. 18 minutes on the clock. We're bringing you independent off-tube studio commentary. Manchester City leading Leicester City by 2-0. Rodri into the feet of John Stones, and again a little bit of evidence of Leicester trying to press higher up the pitch. Jamie Vardy leading that fight. I mean, that's stage one, I suppose, for Leicester. Next job is to try and get some kind of possession as well.
Well, they need to do something, don't they? Holding a shape a bit further up the field is just about getting on the ball. Tielemans, another foul from him. Yeah, he's got the captain's armband on. I don't know if that's a vain attempt to keep him at the club or what it is, but it is what it is. I think maybe there'd be stronger candidates, but anyway, Dean Smith's come in and done what he's done. And for City, they need to keep on keeping on. You know, they within 3 points of Man City as it stands. You know, a superior goal difference as well. That could aid and abet and come the back end of the season. In a game like today, where Leicester might end up being a real busting foot, if they go 3 goals down this first half, I just think it could end up 6 and 7s, you know. So it could be a big day, a pivotal day for the citizens, this.
Yeah, it certainly could. A big game against Arsenal to come at the end of the month, which could well be a really decisive one in the Premier League battle. But if City can considerably boost their goal difference in this game, then it could make all the difference come the end of the campaign. For Leicester as well, they don't want their goal difference to run away. They actually have the joint best goal difference at the start of play, -12 going into this one out of all the sides involved in the relegation battle. So that's an ace up their sleeve that they'll want to keep relatively intact at the very least come the end of this match. As Soyuncu brings the ball forward, releases Christensen down the left-hand side. He does dig out across towards Vardy, who tees up Dewsbury Hall. Now Maddison, left foot curling effort towards goal, is blocked by Diaz and hacked clear by Kyle Walker. We've just ticked beyond the 20-minute mark in this contest, and at last Leicester offer something as an attacking entity.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, the thing is, it's 11 against 11, Tom. You know, they've got good players. Maddison's had a great season. You know, if Vardy's living off his past chance, we know what he can do if you give him some decent ball. He buys himself half a yard. Tielemans is a scorer of goals. Like I said, a lot of these guys are in the team that beat City 5-2 at this venue. You know, where's that gone? Vardy's offside. He picks up the ball inside the area and he puts it inside net in anyway, and then the flag goes up. That's a little bit better. But you can only score, you know, you're more likely to score goals if you're in the opposition half, rather than Vardy defending lower than the sort of halfway line, even lower than the centre circle. Ridiculous, you know. And you need your attacking players to keep the defenders, you know, honest and about at the halfway line. You try and compress play, at least drag the opposition into their half. They failed to do that, and honestly, it is a bit like a masterclass of how not to. And now and only now they're 2 goals down, and they're giving themselves a chance by keeping a shape. But it makes no sense.
It's too little, too late, it would seem, from Leicester, but at least a couple of opportunities towards goal. Vardy was well offside when he received that pass from James Maddison. He rounded the goalkeeper and hit the side netting anyway. He's only scored 1 Premier League goal this season, and that was back in October against Wolves. It's one of Leicester's fundamental problems, maybe, that they weren't expecting a fall-off from Jamie Vardy, who is 36 years old now, or such a significant fall-off anyway. And then the other strikers within the squad, the likes of Kelechi Iheanacho and Patson Daka, who are both on the bench this evening, have not been able to really step up to the plate and fill the void. I mean, it's inevitable Vardy was going to tail off at some point. It's almost as if Leicester, for whatever reason, the manager, the hierarchy, they weren't expecting it.
Yes and no, because they'd bought several replacements, haven't they? You know, I just thought it's almost like Dean Smith had been away for 2 years in a vacuum somewhere. He hasn't. You know what I mean? And you go in there and you go, oh, we've got Jamie Vardy. Well, is he going well in training? Yeah, he's going well in training. Is he up for it? Yeah, he's massively up for it. But that don't mean to say he can do what he did in the Premier League a few years ago. But you go in there and you think, right, if Jamie Vardy could reprise the kind of form that he once had, then we'll be all right. So you put him in ahead of Kelechi Iheanacho and Patson Daka. You know, and both of those guys have been tried recently, so maybe it was his turn anyway. But the truth about it is that all three of them, to some degree or another, have failed this season, you know. But if you're asking Jamie Vardy to defend in front of his back four midfield, you're wasting your time, because that's not, he can't run the full length of the pitch. Look at him again. Again, he's in that defensive position. It's pragmatic, this, from Leicester, but it's not going to do him any good.
This cross comes into the box from Rodri for Manchester City, evades Erling Haaland and will, more through luck than skill, end up falling at Daniel Everson in the Leicester goal. Those three Leicester strikers we were just discussing, Vardy, Iheanacho and Daka, 8 Premier League goals between them this season. Erling Haaland on his own has 31 for Manchester City, which tells a bit of the story behind Leicester's struggles as Everson slips as he sends the clearance forward. It still falls to Tielemans. Christensen, that's a poor ball from Dewsbury Hall now will drop it into the feet of Kagla Soyuncu. Clips a left-footed ball down the channel, looking to release Victor Christensen. His nod down finds Vardy. He gets a touch, a rare touch in opposition territory. Dewsbury Hall flicks a ball infield, sells Ndidi a little bit short, and Ndidi wasn't that strong in the challenge, and now De Bruyne can break forward for Manchester City. He releases Haaland. Erling Haaland lifts it over Everson and into the back of the net. Another brace for this unstoppable centre forward, and Manchester City, as I hand over to John Hogan to take you through to the half-time break, lead Leicester by 3-0, and Haaland has 2.
You nicked my goal, Tom.
I apologise.
Anyway, what a goal. What a goal. I mean, as soon as the ball's won by De Bruyne, you know, it wasn't a great ball to Ndidi, but De Bruyne then just, you know, right, nothing's going to stop me. He gets moving, Ndidi tries to get back at him, he's desperate. Look at the run from Haaland, inside and out. You know, his control is good, and then a little clip before the keeper. Suter can't live with that kind of quality, but it is quality. Look, it's inside out. He's looking at Suter's back, then he bursts in front of him. Then the next thing, he's flicking it over the keeper. Daniel Everson's not going to get there. He scored 2 goals. He's done next to nothing in the game. You know, it's as simple as that, though. He's a greyhound, and as soon as you find him, you know, an unerring finish, right foot control into left foot finish. You know, he just gives you what you want at 3-0. Vardy's saying to him, well done, kid. But he says it on the quiet there. But the game's gone. Absolutely gone, Tom.
It really has. It's, I mean, if there was a minute bit of hope at 2-0, that has completely evaporated now, hasn't it? And it's quite telling there, Jamie Vardy having a word with Erling Haaland at the kick-off there, an ironic smile on his face. I suppose he can still say to Haaland, at least for a few more weeks, that he's got a Premier League title in his back pocket. Haaland's yet to do that, although I'm sure that will come in the weeks, months and years certainly to come.
Oh yeah, he's going to win all sorts of pots and pans, isn't he? Unfortunately for him, with all due respect in that, he might not expect so many international honours with Norway, but scored a 47th goal this season, 32 in the Premier League. I think that's a record anyway. And he won't stop, and there's games to go, and you know, like I said, he's an absolute greyhound. And he reminds me a little bit, he's got bits and pieces of Ruud van Nistelrooy and Ian Rush about him. And he's such an athlete. There's pace about him, not quite the pace of a Rush, I don't think, but it's almost unstoppable, because physically, if he gets goal side of you, and then we saw there, Suter thinks he's under control. I know where he is. And then when he didn't, he's behind him, and then he's in front of him, and you think, well, how do you stop that? It's just clever stuff, and that's great from Mahrez, but just De Bruyne couldn't keep his feet there. He goes down, and then the ball played slightly behind Christensen, gives him a job to do, and it will be a City throw.
It's so difficult for Leicester. They're chasing shadows for 95% of the time. I think when they do win it back, they're losing it cheaply because they're so out of puff, aren't they? They're knackered. They're not used to having possession. That they're just giving it straight back to City. It's a double-edged sword at the moment for Leicester, and already, I mean, if you're a Leicester supporter, you probably want the final whistle to go, take 3-0 and just cut and run, because this could end up a very horrible scoreline.
But listen, you know, they won 5-2 before, so they'll just have to go a little bit better, win 5-3, won't they? I would say, you know, you're hung for a sheep as a lamb. You know, I think in a game like this, you could lose anyway. You could get battered anyway. But why not try and give yourself a chance, you know? All this try to keep it tight and be pragmatic. I just think when it does go wrong, it's spectacularly bad, as Walker puts a ball in from the right-hand side. You know, my other thought about it is, right, so they're set up to be defensive and all that. Okay, teams do that. But since when has Vardy been a holding midfielder? But that's kind of the role he's asking him to play. So for good or for bad, all of a sudden you've got your attacking players playing out of position. You know, Madison's got to protect his form, but that's fine, you know. But yeah, it's just not working out. And when you lose the ball, it's very near your own goal. A bit of a lunging foul there from Kyle Walker. Given, maybe he's a bit unlucky.
Yeah, Leicester, I mean, Dean Smith may as well have just taken the subtlety out of it and just played Daniel Amati instead of Jamie Vardy or Luke Thomas, another defensive player, because that's, to all intents and purposes, it's a back 10 in front of Daniel Everson in a lot of ways. And you know,
well, Southampton at home today played almost a 4-6. They played without any strikers, probably because they didn't have that much. Onuachu and, you know, one or two others, but they decided to do that and they dominated. Created a few chances and then eventually got blown away. But I understood that to some degree. More than I understood what Dean Smith's tried to do today is low block. Maybe he's thinking, you know, it's after Lord Mayor's show and maybe we'll frustrate him and all that. But anyway, it's not worked out. It's not his day, not his team's day. And here comes City again. Ball into the box, but this time a header away. Just as well Suter got there because Haaland was hunting that up. Madison's got to beat 3 just to chop the ball back to his fullback, and that's the problem. That's great play from Madison, and if it's in around the edge of the opposition area, superb, you know. You get nothing for it though if you're 10 yards in front of your right back, as City have it. It sounds like we're moaning, and to some degree we are, but what's happened here is that any jeopardy's gone out of the game, and essentially for me, watching it as a neutral, it makes it boring. You know, it's going to be like we try and light the fire of how many now, and then if they don't get double figures or something, we're vaguely, you know, upset by that. Anyway, here comes Christensen now. Dewsbury Hall puts a decent looking ball into the box, but it's blocked away by Rodri.
I'll keep the glass half full by suggesting we could still have one of the greatest comebacks in Premier League history. Doesn't look likely at this moment in time, though. Well,
here's Dewsbury Hall. The thing is, they've got good players. I really like Dewsbury Hall. He's a cracking player. Tielemans scores goals. You know, I've often thought that indeed he's a good player. You know, there's no shortage of talent there. It's just how you set them up. You know, when you went out to play football, even in your school teams, you'd think, oh, we're up against a school. We don't normally do that well. They're a bit better than us. But that don't mean to say you all go and decide that you're going to defend and block. You know, you might end up doing that because the opposition's a bit better. But at least, you know, when the ball's back with your goalkeeper, have the ambition of playing up the field and doing all that. The problem that a lot of these teams have at the moment is everybody wants to play out from the back. De Bruyne gets round his man Suter and it's hooked away by Castagna at the death there, and that will just be a throw. If your team wants to play out from the back, you get to the point in a game when you realise you haven't been in the opposition half. How are you going to score? At least back in the day, in your school team against a better school, you know, your goalkeeper would boot it out over the halfway, give you a shot to nothing at least. Boy, you know, it's so difficult here watching Leicester just defend. One-way traffic. Rodri picks the ball up, sweeps it out to Grealish, left-hand side. He's got Castagna ahead of him, but he doesn't need to. Puts the ball inside of him. In the end, Wout Faes has done well there, gets just a foot in. Bernardo's got the quality just to dribble into the box there, but Faes came and took the ball away from him, and then Grealish has fouled Madison and eats a free kick, but just relieves a bit of that pressure.
It does. We see Erling Haaland behind Alan Shearer and Andy Cole as the all-time leading scorer in a single Premier League season. He's got 32. They both got 34, although they've got that both got theirs in a 42-game Premier League season. Haaland only has 38 to achieve his tally, and I'm sure he'll go beyond that record of 34 before the end of the campaign. But yeah, Leicester, they need to try and get up high up the pitch. We keep saying.
Grealish is going to get sent off here, I fancy. And then indeed a little bit of afters. Our referee's trying to ignore that. I don't know, we saw it. Maybe he wasn't at a good angle. I don't know if VAR gets to have a chat with him. But it looked to me like they tangled, and then I thought Grealish threw a punch.
Well, I'm sure we'll find out in the next breaking play. Darren England's just put his hand to his ear. Maybe he is getting some instructions from VAR, but once this ball goes out, if they are going to do something about it, if there is something to be done, then I'm sure we'll find out. Grealish is in possession at the moment for a curveball as well if he ends up scoring in this passage of play.
He rolls the ball into the box. He can't quite find Riyad Mahrez, who'd peeled off from his right flank into sort of inside left. Ball won't go out at the minute, and that's why. Anyway, sliced out. Referee's going to come across now. He's going to have a word with Jack Grealish, I think, but he didn't see it. He does go and have a word. Maybe you're that lucky because I can't give it. I didn't see anything. I don't know what VAR can say to him, and we've not taken a second look at that because the ball's hardly been out of play. So his teammates keeping the ball in there, doing him a job. As Maddison, that's a beautiful cut by him. He drops the shoulder, beats two. Vardy runs ahead of him now and picks up the ball at the edge of the area, held up by John Stones. Though ball now for Kieran Dewsbury, hold just the edge of the box. Maddison, can he get it out of his feet? Yes, he can. Right-footed strike into the back of Bernardo Silva. Ball breaks back out now. Castagna tries to get that one working again. And Grealish comes across, and it looks like he's dealt with it to some degree. I don't know if that's a corner. Looks like they're all moving back.
I think Grealish got a toe in and it hit Tielemans and went out for a goal kick, but that was better from Leicester. Of course, it was James Maddison at the centre of it. Lovely turn initially to release Vardy, and then he has an attempt towards goal. Little crumbs of comfort like that will give Leicester something to try and get their teeth into. If they're going to get any kind of positivity from this game, i.e. maybe a consolation goal, they need to get James Maddison on the ball as much as they can.
Yeah, I think he's had a really good season. The big question marks about his work rate, I think. Not about his quality. And Leicester fans, I think, were a little bit upset with him about a year ago, thinking he didn't really put it in. But I think he's changed his work ethic, really. He's more willing, seemingly, to put it in for the team. That's got him an England call-up, hasn't it? And I think he's played quite well for England. He certainly deserves to be playing on a world stage, so good for him. But unfortunately, his teammates don't seem to be matching the qualities. Carl Walker's chased by Christensen, who shows he's no slouch. But the ball then with Diaz, and he goes back to Ederson, who's not really had too much to do. Anyway, Carl Walker back on it. Looks like City are taking a breather. They've been fairly relentless, but even there at 3-0, just think, let's pat the ball about now and wait for the break. Maybe also, if they do play it about a bit, they'll just drag the Leicester players out their own half.
Yeah, that's it. The City don't need to do anything more than they've been doing, and that might allow Leicester to grow more into the game, but it might also create gaps when City do break forward. Grealish is crossed from the left-hand side, on this occasion gathered by Everson, but inevitably, we mentioned it, it feels like the competitive edge of the game has gone, and you can see that with the players as well. City have dropped the intensity, and it is just allowing Leicester a squeak in terms of having a bit more of possession higher up the pitch.
Yeah, just looking at the respective benches, Iheanacho out the frying pan at City, into the fire perhaps. He would have expected to get regular first team football, I guess. Be the understudy to Vardy. Vardy took a long time to throttle down in his career, and Iheanacho's never fully impressed. He finds himself offside way too often. I like Patson Daka, but I think it's very difficult for a young striker to make his name in the Premier League if he doesn't score 20 goals a season. It's like, well, he's out. Ball into the box here for De Bruyne. From the left-hand side, it's the sort of outstep of his right boot, not easy to do. And then the ball aimed at Vardy, he's taken off his toe end, and he can make no impression. and it's just City absolutely dominating. It is a bit like shots in and the occasional breakout from the opposition, and Leicester just back inside their own half. You know, I think at a certain point you have a player like Vardy or whoever your striker is, and I'd say, right, if the fullbacks are going forward, just hang in the gap. He's going to play sort of inside left today, and whenever they stride forward, if we've got an out ball, fling it that way, at least let him run at it. But because Vardy is ever moving and moving back to help his defence out, there is nobody to find, even if they do win the ball. There's no out ball, and then they're required to run the full length of the field to try and support the attack because they've all been defending. Dewsbury Hall, though, is willing to do that, and he bursts over the halfway line. But again, no real support for him. He shrugged off the ball. Kyle Walker may have fouled him there. That's another feature as well, is that your teammates think, well, City will have it back soon. So I don't think Dewsbury Hall is going to have it for too long. So I won't go support it, because I'll just be defending a minute anyway. And all of a sudden you forget to attack. When he broke forward there was only Vardy with him.
Well, that's it, and Vardy's run was covered by 2 or 3 City defenders between Dewsbury Hall and the striker, so he has to take it on himself. I think it's a soft free kick. Didn't think there was much Kyle Walker did there. Just a slight arm. Dewsbury Hall off balance, fell over. The referee gives a foul, and Leicester chance to get the ball into the box. Angle's not great for James Maddison, but he will stand it up in the area.
Yeah, and he does just that. And then the ball back with Fast on the half volley. And he flies that shot over the top. Not his finest moment, but it was something. Yeah, leaning back, always difficult to get that right, really. I think they've got good players. You know, I think Leicester have got enough quality, certainly, to stay up, but we can say that about virtually all the teams. I was talking about Southampton today. I thought I was saying if they got back-to-back wins, you know, all of a sudden it would be going for them, and then they were terrible today, really. You know, I'm struggling to see them staying in the division, even though I think they've got some cracking players there. It's the same for Leicester as well. They've hit a flat spot at just the wrong time, haven't they? You know, they've lost all momentum, but yet they've got such good players at the team, in the squad. You know. Anyway, whether Dean Smith can get them out of the hole they're in, I don't know. The other point, I suppose, Tom, is that you'd expect to get nothing at the Etihad anyway, so it's a shot to nothing. Maybe he's just gone in there and thought we won't expend too much energy, and they're certainly not really throwing too much at it as Mahrez picks it up. And here now Silva to Rodri, steps on the ball, but nobody's come to challenge him. He runs through 1 or 2 would-be challengers, finds Mahrez, back to De Bruyne. Not a lot of pressure on the ball right now.
No, it's half-high press from Leicester. They're a little bit scared. They don't know whether to stick or twist. City not really going through the gears either. Again, mentioned they don't need to go for the jugular. As you say, in a lot of ways, this is a shot to nothing for Leicester. Thinking about it, you almost feel like they'd be better off not appointing Dean Smith if that's what they wanted to do until next week. Have the interim managers take charge of this, get it out the way, and then it is a clean slate, rather than having your new manager coming in and immediately starting on the back foot with what looks like it will be a heavy defeat.
Yep, I agree with that. Ball headed across the face now, breaks to De Bruyne, and he's gone for blood there with a right foot half volley. Hit it way too hard and into the stand. Again, Kyle Walker played all right there, good header in. Swung it in the mix, and again, so many blue shirts in the Leicester box. So they've got 3 centre-backs today, Fas, Soyuncu, Suter. But I'm not sure that wing-backs is a way forward for them. Not that they're playing like wing-backs today. It's a back 5, isn't it? With 3 in front of them. Maddison's having to do a shift in. But City again have the ball back with Grealish, who just draws that challenge of Castagna. Comes back out with the ball, and then he drifts one over the top. That's very close, you know. Holland sticks out right leg, and if he brings that in, he's probably 4. It's a good pass from Grealish.
It was. I'm just thinking, has Erling Haaland even touched the ball since he scored his second goal? Again, no real involvement in the build-up play, but when he needs to be, he inevitably pops up in the right place and provides a finish. But again, that evidence is that the City have just dropped 2 or 3 gears themselves, and was going through the motions at this moment in time. I think Pep Guardiola will probably and stays at 3-0 going into the break. Look to freshen things up pretty quickly with the Bayern Munich return match in mind, and maybe inject some fresh impetus with one or two more fringe players coming off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't have gone much better, and you're so right. I mean, I'd be thinking job done. Yeah, let's take off one or two of the key cogs, and you know, we'll still go on and win it anyway. It's not like he's got a weak bench, is it? You know, there's some great players to bring on. You know, Gundogan, absolutely brilliant. You know, Cole Palmer's still making his way, and Julian Alvarez, how many World Cups he won? Just one. But you know what I mean. I mean, I think I'll be taking Haaland off, because you can wrap him up in cotton wool, but he probably wants to keep on scoring and break that record. And he could break that record today, the way he's going. I think he's had 2 touches and, you know, hit the back of the net twice, kind of thing. So he'll want to go on. There's a bit of that. And then you've got to sort of focus, because it's not going to be easy against Bayern Munich. Even at 3-0 up, you know, they're one of the few clubs who could turn that round. Anyway, not likely to against this City team. Rodri again pulling the strings in the middle. Ball drifts out right. Kyle Walker controls it well. Then bursts past Christensen. Buys himself a little bit of time. De Bruyne ball to the far post. Headed away. Just at the edge of the box. Then I think that's probably a foul from Laporte. And he got a little bit too heavy then on Maddison, who I thought was in position A to control the ball. Madison's played all right today for what it's worth, but the 3-0 down, it doesn't really count. Let's hope there's not too much added time at the end of the half.
Yeah, he's been tidy in possession when he's got it. Maddison, what's going through his head really over the course of this performance in the first half. He'll feel, and rightly so, he has the ability of a lot of these City players. He wants to be playing football, but instead he's being forced to play as almost an auxiliary fullback at times, and he's barely getting a look in terms of on the ball.
Holland now is a good ball. Maris tries to step past Soyuncu, but he's read that. Dewsbury Hall then finds a ball out to the right. Tielemans in the middle. But it's a great challenge from Riyad Mahrez. You know, they don't mind working hard for the team. They're all used to that for City. All kept in by Haaland. An incredible bit of athleticism there to control it. Took a long leg out. And now they're on the break. They've got bodies forward. Haaland's run offside. He won't go to him. But now they're trying to step over it. But Castanier's read that really well. Maybe one last hurrah then in this 45 minutes as Maddison runs down one blind alley after another, and then he's chopped down by Bernardo Silva. And he gets a yellow card for that right in front of the referee. I don't know quite what he expected to get there.
Needless from Bernardo Silva, isn't it? You're 3-0 up. Maddison turns nicely, chops his man down. Maybe Darren England could have kept his cards in his pocket, but as you say, it was right in front of him, and he decides it's worthy of a yellow, and you don't need to be picking up those kind of needless cards when you're in such a comfortable position. No,
not really. I mean, it's one of those. He shows a lot of skill, Maddison, and you just think, boom. And he did. Ball was long gone, wasn't it? I think if the ball had been anywhere near his feet, he might have got away with that, but it was long on the ball. Anyway, here they come, Castagna now for Leicester. Just trying to work it. Then Dewsbury Hall. He's worked hard today. Back to Castagna. And then back to Fass. Ball chipped over the top. Too much legs on that. And Castagna's never going to get there, although he gives a thumbs up. We're into 2 minutes of added time. And thankfully we've had one of them. It's been as one-sided a half of football as you're going to see, though. And you think, oh, you know, business as usual then. Man City 3, Leicester City 0. Well, this has done a real disservice to Leicester. I just think there are many ways to get beat by Man City, but meekly surrendering possession to them and territory and sitting back in front of your own goal is not the way to take these guys on anymore. I haven't seen the stats for low-blocking teams and what they do against them and all that. But when Leicester City beat them before 5-2, I bet they weren't low-blocking. Anyway, that's for a bone for another day. As Grealish picks the ball up now. We didn't see the Grealish thing again with Ndidi, did we? Him flinging an arm out. Maybe if he gets sent off, that might have sort of made a bit of a game of it, but we never got to see that again.
No, the only thing you can presume is that there can't have been too much in it. If there had been a real talking point, then I'm sure we'd have seen 5, 6, 7 replays since then.
Well, here is Grealish, edge of the area. Not a great ball to Bernardo, but then De Bruyne picks it up. His ball into the box is headed away. by Soyuncu. The referee's seen enough, and at half-time then at the Etihad is Manchester City 3, Leicester City 0.
At the break, Manchester City lead Leicester City by 3-0, and it's been as one-sided a first half as you're likely to see in the Premier League this season. City in front on 5 minutes. Lovely left-foot volley from John Stones. Erling Haaland then scored from the penalty spot on 13 after Wilfred Ndidi was adjudged by VAR to have handled in the area. Haaland got his second of the game and his 32nd in the league this season on 25 minutes with another cool finish. Man City 3, Leicester 0. At the break, Manchester City lead Leicester City by 3-0, and it's been as one-sided a first half as you're likely to see in the Premier League this season. City in front on 5 minutes. Lovely left-foot volley from John Stones. Erling Haaland then scored from the penalty spot on 13 after Wilfred Ndidi was adjudged by VAR to have handled in the area. Haaland got his second of the game and his 32nd in the league this season on 25 minutes with another cool finish. Man City 3, Leicester 0. At the break, Manchester City lead Leicester City by 3-0, and it's been as one-sided a first half as you're likely to see in the Premier League this season. City in front on 5 minutes. Lovely left-foot volley from John Stones. Erling Haaland then scored from the penalty spot on 13 after Wilfred Ndidi was adjudged by VAR to have handled in the area. Haaland got his second of the game and his 32nd in the league this season on 25 minutes with another cool finish. Man City 3, Leicester 0. At the break, Manchester City lead Leicester City by 3-0, and it's been as one-sided a first half as you're likely to see in the Premier League this season. City in front on 5 minutes. Lovely left-foot volley from John Stones. Erling Haaland then scored from the penalty spot on 13 after Wilfred Ndidi was adjudged by VAR to have handled in the area. Haaland got his second of the game and his 30th
the break. City, perhaps with a midweek Champions League match with Bayern Munich in mind, have brought on Manuel Akanji and Julian Alvarez to replace John Stones and Erling Haaland. So no hat-trick for Haaland this evening. Both City goal scorers actually from that first half have been replaced. For Leicester, Kelechi Iheanacho has come on against his former club to replace Jamie Vardy up front, and Luke Thomas is on at left back in place of Victor Christensen. Fresh legs, but based on what we saw in the opening 45 minutes, it's difficult to see those changes stemming the tide from the visitors' point of view. It's myself, Tom McGarry, and John Hogan talking you through this evening's coverage. John, that was probably one of the most one-sided first halves we've seen in the Premier League this season. Is there any way Leicester can get a foothold in this game, or do you see the status quo continuing?
I just think they'll be beaten up whichever way now. It's too late, really. And listen, Alvarez comes on and he'll be like a whippet out there, desperate to do well. He's only a World Cup winner, nothing fancy, you know. And Akanji's a good player. I don't see any weakness there. If Iheanacho's come on against his former club, but you know, he's somebody who can't keep himself on side. Not that he's got a lot of pace about him anyway. Just don't see how it's going to work. So the answer is no. And it was a feeble first half performance, and from that they don't really deserve anything. If they do get back into it, then wow, that'd be great. But I just can't see it.
Yeah, it's very difficult to envisage Leicester even getting a goal based on what we saw in the first 45 minutes, never mind working their way back into the contest as Kevin De Bruyne releases Kyle Walker down the right-hand side. He uses his pace, gets a decent ball into the box, headed clear by Harry Souttar. Soyuncu now inside his own penalty area for Leicester, feeds it up to James Maddison, who tried to make things happen in that first half. In the rare opportunities he got on as the man there to clear. Soyuncu then has his pocket picked inside the area by De Bruyne, just about atones, and Leicester will try this time to bring the ball clear with a bit more authority. Dewsbury Hall up to Iheanacho. Nice little give and go. Iheanacho wanted the return. Dewsbury Hall keeps possession instead. Draws a free kick on the halfway line. Rodri with the challenge.
Yeah, that's right. Do you know what? If Dean Smith really had ambition to try and get,
but it's a poor first touch by the striker. He was in between Manuel Akanji and Kyle Walker, and just for a moment it looked like he was going to be bearing down on goal, but he never got it under control. Walker had the pace to get in behind.
He was never onside in that, Tom. And we mentioned about he can't keep onside. He was never onside, and so even then his touch betrayed him, and then the next thing, his ball taken away from him. So you're not going to score like that. It was a good ball, but you've got to trust that your striker's looking down the line and he keeps on. And he just fails to do that. Daka, on the other hand, I prefer out the three of them. He's the man who always keeps on side. I think he's getting better at putting the ball in the back of the net. He misses chances as well, but I think he's the best out of that bunch at the minute.
Yeah, Iheanacho poor there on a few fronts, not staying onside and then failing to control the ball anyway. Lovely pass through though from James Maddison, who remains the bright spark for Leicester in what has been an otherwise disappointing evening so far, but at least that was a flurry forward from the Foxes at the start of this second period. Manchester City back in possession, and Eric Laporte into the feet of Rodri and across to Akanji. It's a heavy touch from him, maybe not quite up to the pace of the game. He's close bound by Dewsbury Hall. He loses possession. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall has it. Have an obvious pass on initially, but then tries to get Thomas in behind. There's too much on that ball. But again, the quality may not quite be there from Leicester, but at least they're fighting to try and win the ball back high up the pitch.
No, exactly. I mean, keep it on. Calvin Phillips is going to come on now. So, you know, I think it's all, you know, 3-0. We're all right. You know, let's take the sting out of it. You might even take an attacker off here, you know, for Phillips. If he wants, he can do what he likes, so can't he, at 3-0. But they're controlling the game. Leicester have got bodies further up the field, and good for them. But they should have done that right from the get-go, and maybe they might have sprung a surprise. You know, they needed to catch City and do something out of the ordinary. Sat back and defending, didn't do that, did it? Not at all. And they're paying a price for that, even though they try to be a bit more positive now.
Yeah, it's better from Leicester, but too little too late, some would argue. Harry Suter on the ball for the Foxes, floats it out to Castagna on the right-hand side. He'll play an early ball, looking to get Maddison in behind Aymeric Laporte, but Laporte can comfortably intervene. Rodri now, who may be one of the candidates to come off for Manchester City if it's a like-for-like change, with Calvin Phillips in the middle of the park. He's in possession again, the Spaniard. Switches it across to the left. City yet to get into gear at the start of this second period. Bernardo Silva. Leicester back in defensive shell. Silva can just pirouette and do a full 180 on the halfway line, not once but twice, without any real attention from a visiting player. Laporte back into Bernardo Silva it goes. City content to play cat and mouse with Leicester for the time being. Rodri inside the centre circle, getting almost at a walking pace at this moment in time. Alvarez gets involved, tries to inject a bit of energy into proceedings. Laporte now down the left-hand side, goes back into Bernardo Silva once more. Switch the ball out to the right-hand flank, where there is a bit of space for Kyle Walker. Closed down by Luke Thomas and has to go backwards once again. But yeah, City, they're just content, aren't they, to retain possession. There's no need for them to push and try and score 4th, 5th, 6th goal. There's nothing really for them to prove. That they're just happy to keep the ball. Yeah, absolutely. Looks like Rodri now is going to go off. No need for him to be on. He's doing his usual strong arm in the middle, and it's been enough, hasn't it? He's been dominating that midfield area. I think what you see from Leicester is very ordinary, really. But without the ball, they try and get back into a certain shape. But in doing that, they're not marking anybody. You know, somehow you need a hybrid between what a Bielsa team used to do, mark everybody up, to make sure that there's always pressure on the man on the ball, you know, and that nobody gets away, but also getting back as well. You know, when this, I just noticed they go back in position, but all of a sudden then Bernardo's in the middle with acres of space. You saw him do 2 pirouettes, and then he, you know, and nobody's marking him. And they're leaving too many good players lots of time on the ball to do what they want. Well, another ball into the middle there, but Julian Alvarez has not got the same barnstorming threat in the middle there from that ball in, and nothing comes of it. So it might be City light in a way now, but I still fancy they'll have too many guns for Leicester. Yeah, you'd imagine there's still a couple of goals out there for Manchester City if they want it, and certainly the likes of Alvarez will be hungry to get their names on the score sheet as they win themselves a throw-in midway inside their own half, despite Akanji protesting otherwise. 8 minutes into this second half, Manchester City leading Leicester City by 3-0 as it stands. Remember, they'll be moving to within 3 points of Arsenal at the top of the standings. The Gunners in action tomorrow against West Ham. How much you can hear on this service for Leicester. They're going to be remaining second bottom of the table and 2 points adrift of safety, and that is a gap between themselves and the getting out of the bottom 3 that could be extended depending how other results go over the course of the weekend. Third from bottom, Nottingham Forest will face Manchester United tomorrow as Ederson has the ball for City. He's barely touched it really in the match so far. The home side's number 1 as he gets it again inside his own 6-yard area from Ruben Diaz before effortlessly stroking it out to Laporte on the left-hand side. He was pulled back by Maddison. It'll be a free kick to Manchester City, and probably do with either City up in the ante and trying to push for a few more goals, or maybe somehow Leicester getting a goal back just to lift the game into life. Yeah, well, the only thing about if Leicester try and go for something, and I think the ship sailed already, is that they're worried about the goal difference, so they've been trying to keep it tight, hence he's still got 3 at the back. You know, so they don't want to get pummeled, lose by 5 or 6 and end up level on points with, say, Leeds United and end up going down on goal difference. It could happen, but I just don't
just the whole thing didn't work. I think if they looked at it again, and clearly with the benefit of hindsight, first 10 or 15 minutes, he might have just said, let's go for it. Let's try and nick a goal. Then we can sit back and try and defend it if we don't get it. But at least we'd have given it a go. But he's not giving his team any kind of chances. Volley from Grealish there. He catches it quite nice, but it's a hard thing to do from a corner kick, that get it on target. Look at the spaces in though.
It's the old school Beckham to Scholes, although referencing Manchester United might not be the way to go with Manchester City. But Mahrez to Grealish, the 2023 incarnation. Very difficult skill for Grealish, catching it almost at chest height, and he slices it over the top of the crossbar. Would have been an absolutely spectacular goal had he been able to find the target. And he's been in fantastic form, hasn't he, for City over recent months? Really made him the first names on the team sheet in the big games for City. He and Riyad Mahrez seem to be the preferred two in the wide areas in the final third, more often than not for Pep Guardiola. Phil Foden, who would be one of those options, currently out injured after having surgery on his appendix.
I mean, he'd had he played well, and I think Player of the Month this season. And then when I was watching, looking forward to seeing him, he actually played really poorly, and I think he's still a young fella, and you sort of forget that. Because Grealish is a sort of more seasoned character now. He's been a while. You know, he'd been Aston Villa captain, hadn't he, for a while and all that, been down and gone up. He's seen a little bit more. I didn't think he played that well in his first season, but he's certainly coming good now. Look at him there. He's got taken down in back play there by Wout Fast, just coming and leaning on him. He's good at winning those free kicks. But they shell out a fortune for a player, and then they're patient. He's the right age, and then he's hit form. The same with Gundogan, did the same thing. Didn't play particularly well for years. Silva did the same thing, Bernardo Silva. They can be patient, but they've bought good players. They're just waiting for the right time for them, and each time seems to have come.
Yeah, and City are in a position where they can afford to do that because they already have, world-class players all over the pitch to compensate if a player needs bedding in time. The bonus for them this season is Erling Haaland hasn't needed any bedding in time. He's slotted straight in and is scoring goals at a record-breaking rate.
I mean, it's also important, Tom, to know when players have gone over the top. I thought it was superb business to lose Raheem Sterling when they did. I'm not saying he's a busted flush, but I think he was on a slippery slope, and as maybe they found at Chelsea this season, although he goes out with lots of intent and he's still a good player, he's not quite what he was.
The free kick worked short by City. De Bruyne to Mahrez, who tries to tee up Laporte on the right-hand side of the penalty area. Laporte will have to come out the box now to find Bernardo Silva. He'll lift another dangerous-looking ball towards the far post, but that one had just a little bit too much legs on it, and it'll go behind for a goal kick. 58 minutes on the clock. Manchester City 3, Leicester City 0. Manchester City very comfortable in this game. They've been able to take off the likes of Erling Haaland and Rodri to wrap them up in cotton wool. John Stones as well, ahead of that Champions League game with Bayern Munich in Germany this midweek. It's turning into a real purple patch for City. If they win this, will be their 10th victory in a row, and to all intents and purposes 3-0 up. We do fully expect them to go on and claim the 3 points. Leicester are battling a little bit more, trying to push higher up the pitch when they can, but I don't know about you, John. I feel that's more because City may have just taken their foot off the gas slightly rather than anything. Leicester are doing better as Tielemans inexplicably gives the ball away inside his own defensive third.
Yeah, Leicester aren't playing that much better, are they? And Keenan Hall there just having a go at the referee, Dewsbury Hall. No real need for that. He just took his eye off it. Man City have sort of down tools, but just sort of rolling through it, going through the motions, aren't they? Leicester can't seem to do anything anyway. It wouldn't surprise me if we end up at 3-0, but equally, Man City might walk another couple in, we just don't know. And they're going to make another change now, and it's clear, isn't it? Guardiola feels super confident that they've got this game in the bag, and so he's going to rest one of his most important players, I fancy.
I think that's Cole Palmer who's going to come on, so you'd imagine it'd be Grealish or Mahrez to go off as De Bruyne whips a dangerous ball towards the far post, aimed at Aymeric Laporte. Wilfred Ndidi got an important touch on it. I don't think it hit Laporte after that. Yeah, straight off Ndidi, so it'll be a corner to Manchester City. De Bruyne, I suppose, is another candidate that could be
replaced. City are not going to make that change just yet. Grealish works the corner short with De Bruyne, pulls it to the edge of the area. Bernardo Silva, he'll tee up the effort towards goal for Mahrez. Curling effort, brilliant striking. That draws a really good save high to his right hand side from Daniel Everson.
That's sumptuous football, isn't it? Great corner kick routine, brilliant shot, brilliant save. Everson diving, full stretch to his right-hand side, claws it out the top corner, dropping below the crossbar. Some of the fans behind the goal were celebrating. That's how well that was hit.
De Bruyne takes the resulting corner, drifts it towards Mahrez again, this time on the volley. City trying that routine once more from a set piece, but Mahrez under pressure was never really set and sends it over the top of the crossbar. We've ticked beyond the hour mark in the contest, and we are going to see that change now. Kevin De Bruyne is the man who's going to be replaced. So another big name City player being wrapped up in cotton wool with the midweek game in mind, and another chance for Cole Palmer to come on and impress. He's got the best part of half an hour to add to what has been a fledgling start to his City career.
Yeah, exactly that. And what a time to come on. I would quite fancy coming on 3-0 up with this City team. You think, right, okay, you know, De Bruyne off. He's had a good run out, a good hour, and yeah, Palmer comes on. Oh, and Tielemans, the skipper, now has come off for Leicester, who I've got to say I was so disappointed with him. Looks like Nampalys Mendy has come on for him, but it's going to be a double change, and Dewsbury Hall goes off as well as Dennis Pratt comes on. I think Dewsbury Hall at least has worked hard.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him. He's not been at his best on the ball, but he's had to work so hard off it. You can understand that. He's clearly fighting, trying to get Leicester going. I'm sure you could fully say the same about Tielemans based on what we saw for his hour on the field. But Mendy and Dennis Pratt come on slightly differently to Cole Palmer coming on for City. I'm not sure if these Leicester players will be too enthused about entering the fray with their side 3-0 down and still a large chunk of the game to go, but fresh legs in the middle of the park, and for the likes of Mendy and Pratt, an opportunity to state their claim to start in the games to come for Leicester, and they are big games for Leicester. The next 3 in the Premier League will be against Wolves, Leeds and Everton, so this match may be going against them, but they're going to have to dust it off quickly, the Foxes, because those are huge matches coming up.
Yeah, they sure are, but the thing is, you get sort of knocked off your perch, don't you, when you've had a game where you've not lifted a leg. I mean, maybe they just draw a line under it, and then he's got to work out who his best players are, who cares, you know, and what sort of shape that they're going to be in. He might have a preferred shape, but maybe this Leicester squad doesn't have the players he likes, you know. He's a good manager, Dean Smith, and I think he did a good job when he took Villa up and all that. But I just don't know. More difficult with a team that's lost momentum.
Yeah, he was sacked by Norwich earlier this season. The criticism at Carrow Road was he didn't really have a particular style of play. He kept chopping and changing things, and there was no real philosophy. So he didn't really have time to stamp his philosophy on this Leicester side. But you need to find a formula and a winning formula quickly if the Foxes are to try and get themselves out of the sticky situation they're currently in. As Calvin Phillips has the ball for City inside the centre circle, floats a tantalising ball over the top, looking for the run of Kyle Walker. It was well watched though by Luke Thomas, who can just guide the header back to his goalkeeper Everson. Leicester will be relieved at least that there's been no further damage in terms of added to the scoreline since the half-time break. Everson bowls the ball out to Harry Souttar, who returns it to his goalkeeper. He takes a bit of a chance there with Julian Alvarez sniffing around, but Everson does clear up towards the halfway line, where again it doesn't stick with Iheanacho, who's come on to replace Jamie Vardy, and it's the same result really for him. He can't get a look in the game.
No, not at all. You know, it's difficult. They're living off scraps, aren't they? Also, there's a reluctance really for them to put hard work in. They've got big games coming up, and it's like they feel, oh, if this game is gone, well, why try? You know, why burn your batteries on something that's gone? But they've got to just keep on going and try and keep honest, don't they? But every time you look up, City have got the ball and they're running towards the Leicester goal, and here they go again.
There's Ruben Diaz driving through the middle of Leicester's defence, and he's continued his run forward. Riyad Mahrez is in possession. Twisting, turning, gives it to Calvin Phillips, who works it out to Kyle Walker
on the right-hand side. Oh, good run from Mahrez, spotted by Walker into the penalty area. But that is one for the collector's item. Riyad Mahrez miscontrol under no real pressure, and you do not see that very often.
No, he'd been pretty good today, hadn't he? And showed some brilliant control, particularly first half. Ball's pinged him 50 yards and he just kills it stone dead. But they're an easier ball, and he must have been thinking about what he was going to do at that point. Took his eye off the prize. On the bench today, Tete not getting a look in. I thought he played quite well when I've seen him this season. Brendan Rodgers liked him and played him in their 4-3-3, and of course there's no Harvey Barnes. I think maybe 4-3-3 still is the way forward for them. You know, a bit late in the season to completely scull more normal tactics. I just thought probably they were playing in the right way, just weren't getting the right results. Crystal Palace found that, didn't they? Went through a whole run of games, couldn't get a shot on target, and all of a sudden they're scoring for fun. They're a 4-3-3 team with good players. I think Leicester, you know, very much like that, in that mould, you know, very dynamic team with good attacking players, but certainly haven't played like that today.
Yeah, and at least a 4-3-3 means there's more support to the central striker, because Vardy, Daka and Iheanacho, whichever one of that three starts up front, I'm completely convinced that they have it in them to lead the line for Leicester. They need the support, which would come from a Tete in the side, or a Barnes when he's fit. Of course, James Maddison provides that support from the central areas, as Jack Grealish for Manchester City takes on Timothy Castagne, flicks it into Bernardo Silva. A little bit of space for Aymeric Laporte down the left-hand side. The City defenders venturing forward more and more often in this game. Well, now with Akanji across to Walker on the right-hand side. Leicester looking a little bit tired and weary as they look to close down City, who move it from one way to the next, keeping on without really lifting the intensity too much at the moment. There is a foul in the middle of the park. Referee plays an advantage. Phillips works it out to Walker, right-hand side. He's into the penalty area. Low cross blocked behind by Luke Thomas. It'll be a Manchester City corner.
Yeah, again, Grealish getting tangled up with Wilfred Ndidi, the Nigerian there. Referee just taking a long lingering look at that, but it will be corner kick. There's no sense of the game coming back to Leicester in this. And John Terry looking on, who was at Aston Villa with Dean Smith. He's back in the dugout today.
Ripped corner in now from Mahrez into the 6-yard area. Laporte was the target. It comes out to Grealish on the edge of the area. His effort blocked by Castagne. Block goes all the way up towards the halfway line, where Kyle Walker will send it back out towards Mahrez on the right. And Thomas intercepts that ball at the expense of a corner. We're midway through this second half then. Manchester City cruising towards all 3 points, it would seem. They continue to lead Leicester by 3-0 to take it through to the final whistle. I'll hand you over to John.
Thanks, Tom. Boring this game. I mean, it's gone. We knew at 3 it had gone, and then I wondered if we'd get more goals second half. We've seen a great Mahrez strike and a really good save, haven't we, from the keeper. And Leicester seemingly could change all that they like now, but the game's gone for them. Maddison is a bright spark. He chases Bernardo Silva. Very nearly catches him, but the Portuguese there has got plenty of skill, keeps hold of it. Still nobody lands a glove on him until eventually he chips the ball out of his feet to Laporte. He's looked steady today as well. Somebody who's not, playing too regularly, and he just comes back in and he just looks awesome again, Calvin Phillips then, a little ball around the corner. Yorkshire Pialot doesn't get it quite right this time. He's a good passer of the ball when he's got wide targets to hit, but he's bound to be a little bit rusty, I think. He's got England to thank for a bit more game time this season, because it's been used very sparingly at City, and he's rumoured to be off at the end of the season. I would have thought that's probably right. Anyway, ball won by Thomas high up the field, and he looks for a long ball for Iheanacho, but Diaz just comes and steers it round the corner. Akanji, and that's kind of the end of that. So Iheanacho won't be feeling like he's traded up moving to Leicester. He wanted to get first team football, but he's not really getting it, and he's certainly not being given a sniff to exact any kind of revenge today.
Yeah, you mentioned in the first half that Leicester signed him as the long-term replacement for for Jamie Vardy, but Vardy kept going for a good 2 or 3 years longer than they expected, and it feels like you've now got a Jamie Vardy who needs to pass the baton on, but it's all gone very stale for the man that was meant to replace him in Iheanacho, and he doesn't look like he's ready to step up to the plate. Again, I don't think any of the Leicester strikers are capable or in good enough form to lead the line on their own, and it's making them very toothless, not only in this game, but in the recent matches they've played as well. Yeah, it's right. Anyway, reverse Poznan going on. Cheeky that. Loads of time left. But anyhow, ball back with Soyuncu, and then Suter. People have been raving about Suter. I'm not sure about him. Fast and certainly Soyuncu are decent players. We'll see. Castagna makes a break down the right-hand side. Nobody close to catching him, and his cutback is good. Shot is tame. Dennis Pratt straight down the middle. Such an easy save there for Ederson. But at least somebody's woke him up, the Man City keeper there. I don't think he's had too much to do. Is that their first effort on target? Yeah, I mean, judging by these statistics, it's their first shot on goal, full stop, because the Vardy one in the first half was flagged offside, so it doesn't count. So, yeah, 71 minutes, first shot on target. A couple more shots there on the stats that's just flashed up on our screen, but yeah, first one on target, it says it all, really. Cole Palmer wins the ball in the middle of the park, does well there. Maddison in attendance, but he just manages to shuffle him off the ball. It's only 2 minutes gone, it's still 3-0. Feels like it's been 3-0 forever, and the game is sort of long gone. There, though, good work by Nampalys Mendy, just hurrying up Calvin Phillips. With the ball now back with Palmer. He gets a little wriggle on. Past Ndidi, who goes to challenge him and then never really catches up. But Thomas has done all right there and wins the ball. Soyuncu to Fass, away from the closing Grealish, then to Maddison. But he's looking for movement up top, and he's screaming at Iheanacho, saying, come short, mate. You're never going to get the ball where he was. Just allowing himself to be marked. Mendy on the ball, and he's got to go backwards. So, anyway, ball again to Maddison, who turns away from Phillips. He's brought down. The ball sort of booted away from him by Diaz, a little bit naughtily there. The referee wants a word. But they're going nowhere fast at the minute, aren't they, Leicester? You can see there's effort there. Maddison keeps trying to get on the ball, influence it. But I'm sure all the rest of his teammates are quite as clued in as he is. Yeah, just picking through the pieces. Maddison's obviously played quite well. Dewsbury Hall up for the fight when he was on the field and played. Thomas has looked like that as well since he's come on. Mendy's only been on a few minutes, but he's working, he's running around, he's trying hard. A lot of the others, Everson's made a good save, can't really fault him for the goals, but you know, you're looking, what Dean Smith needs to do is look around and find the players who are up for the fight now, who want to be at Leicester City, who want the club to survive, and he's got to go with them. They may not necessarily be the most talented players, the biggest names in the squad, but it's need must at this stage. He needs everyone on side he can get and go from there. They cannot afford to carry anyone, no matter how talented those players may be. Yeah, Yuri Tielemans. It's 3-0. Well, we say that because that is the obvious one I was thinking about there. You know, they put the captain's armband on him, but he didn't play a captain's knock today, did he? You know, it's almost like, you know, at the start of the season when they were losing players and, you know, Kasper Schmeichel went and it was like, you know, a sinking ship kind of scenario. And Tielemans, you know, wanted to go, I think, at that point. But they couldn't let everybody go. It's not the way life works, is it? Oh, yeah. Whoever wants to go, lads, you can all get off now. You know, it's not going to happen that. Anyway, Maddison tries to wriggle through there. Very nearly makes it stick. Laporte gets the toe end in, and it will be a corner. But for me, you know, what you've got to do then is you've got to it didn't happen. Right, okay, a bit disappointed, you carry on. You've got to be professional. You don't quite know where it's going to end up, but you want to give it your best. But for me, Tielemans has kind of sulked most of the way through the season, and it leads you to that idea when you see him play and seemingly not care so much. Like today, you think he can't still be sulking after all this time. Anyway, corner kick to the far post. Suter with a header, a save by the keeper, and then a tap in for Iheanacho. They have got one back, and he'll never score an easier goal than that. Suter with the commanding header,
And then, albeit a save from Ederson, back into open play. Iheanacho taps in.
Well, is it game on? 3-1. 15 plus minutes still to go. Stoppage time as well. Great corner from Maddison. Suter, biggest player on the pitch, gets up, heads it down. Edison makes the save, but presents it straight back out to, well, it hits off Calvin Phillips, actually, who makes the save, and that sees the ball ricochet to Iheanacho, unmarked, 3 yards out. Thank you very much against his former club. A goal to his name. It's 3-1 now. I say it half tongue-in-cheek, but realistically, the game's still on. They could get 2 goals in 15 minutes, and at the very least, it's restored an air of respectability to the scoreline, if not necessarily the overall performance.
No, I mean, it is what it is, that. You know, Suter wanted it, didn't he? And all that was from good work again from Maddison. You know, he's kept going this game, and it's a hard thing to do that when nobody, you know, some of your teammates don't seem to be that invested in it. Everybody thinks the game is gone, you know, and it was at a canter, but Iheanacho picks the ball up now, goes for a long-range effort. It's a long way over the top of the crossbar there as well, and what's that Tommy going to say?
He's caught offside there. I think he knew it. That's why he took the shot on, but yeah, never got himself back on side. I mean,
that lazy.
Yeah, he needs to be bursting a gut to get back on side in case the ball breaks through him like it did, and because it isn't, it's a wasted chance for Leicester. But you know,
that's why I could never pick him. I just think you're only going to get X chances, but for Iheanacho, 3 or 4 of them are going to be offside. Well, what's the point? You're only going to get so many chances. You know what? And even there, it's not even though it's tight. He couldn't be bothered getting back on. Hit the ball to Pratt, the edge of the area, but eventually bodies around him, makes sure he didn't get the ball. Calvin Phillips now on the burst. Ball out to left-hand side. And an opportunity on the counter-attack then for Alvarez. Waits for the rest of the troops to come. A little bit of a nutmegs there before he finds Sergio Gomez. And then Bernardo, then Calvin Phillips. Just a normal order, seemingly resuming now. I mean, if you take enough good players out of this Man City team, eventually they'll be ordinary, won't they? But even then, I can't see them, you know, giving away another couple of goals.
No, but Pep will be frustrated that they've conceded and let their complete control of the game slip. They're still very comfortable at this moment in time, but Pep has high standards. He wants the side, whoever's out on the field, to maintain those, and they've just dropped off, haven't they? 10-15%, perhaps even more, and it's gave Leicester a squeak. They've got the goal back. The defending from the corner wasn't great from a City point of view, but Pep won't be happy. But it's difficult to see. It's difficult to see the grand Leicester comeback.
Yeah, not half. But anyway, Maddison again fighting for the ball. He stood up today, and like I said a while ago, the Leicester fans were sort of, you know, chunting away about him. Is he really committed to the cause? Does this fella want to come back and help defend and all that? You know, but he's really kept on going today. You know, he should be proud of his performance. Söyüncü now runs forward, and well, he's over the halfway line. He finds Iheanacho onside this time. Maddison's ahead of him. Can he find it? But he makes some space in his shot. He's over the top. You know, he had a little cut there. He has got talent, Iheanacho. I'm not going to say he's not. You know, clearly he has. And there it all opened up onto a right foot finish, and he just couldn't execute.
Well, there's 2 schools of thought there. I mean, he does brilliantly to open up the space for himself, and he'll feel he's created the chance. He's entitled to take the shot on, which is what he does. Maddison was in space, though, on the right-hand side, looking for the ball. Had he got his head up, slid it in, and Maddison would have had a better opportunity. He didn't. He went for goal himself, and it goes over the top of the target. He is, now that Vardy is at the stage of his career that he is, the best of the goal scorers for Leicester in the final third. But the big question mark with him, you've already mentioned with the offsides, is does he offer enough to the team in the general play as well?
Yeah, keep coming back to it, don't we? But I think they're going to have to invest elsewhere. I like Daka out the 3 of them best, but I might be wrong. You know, anyway, all thoughts for perhaps another day, but for right now, we need to get the ball back. Phillips then just prods it back to Akanji. He fires it forward to Alvarez. He gets it out of his feet, right hand side. Mahrez. He chops the ball back, and they'll have to go back to Ederson, closed down by Iheanacho. Well, that's great, mate, but do get yourself back on side now. Laporte playing left back almost at the minute. 4-5 forward. Palmer back to Calvin Phillips, who again strokes it out with his feet. And again, keeping hold of the ball pretty well. Kyle Walker runs into loads of space. Is anybody going to bother him? Phillips now on the ball. Anybody going to bother him? No pressure on the ball right now. Even Mendy stopped chasing after. He's only been on 10 minutes. There's the ball with Palmer. Thomas tries to tangle. Lovely in and out from Palmer. Keeps Soyuncu at bay. Phillips then shapes to go one way, goes back the other. No pressure on the ball again. And Leicester just taking it here. You know, they grabbed a goal, but so what? Just like they've virtually stood stock still right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 goals in it. 10 minutes plus stoppage time to play. Take a chance. It goes back to the start of the game again. Take a chance, go for it. If you lose 4-5-1 now, I mean, okay, but close down. You know, force an error from the Manchester City players. Don't just let them passively keep the ball on the halfway line.
Yeah, I think there were, I mean, maybe if I'm arguing up for them, it might just be that they've decided to decide when they're going to press. It will take somebody running in, and they'll have to pick their moment. But in waiting for the moments to happen, all of a sudden you find 10 minutes have gone by and nobody has. You know, if they're waiting for a trigger movement, is it the front man goes at the Iheanacho, or what is it? We just saw a press, and I don't know why it happened, or you know what the decision was, because before that they'd done nothing for 5 minutes. Anyway, I can't work it out, and Dean Smith's got to find an answer to it. I always find this arch pragmatism, we're not always going to press, leads to you hardly pressing at all because nobody can be bothered. Well, I didn't know we were supposed to press them. So if you don't do something all the time, it kind of becomes a bad habit. And so too is defending deep. A hard habit to break. Let's defend deep. You know, you don't expend that much energy, or they've scored again. Well, you know, we'll take our medicine kind of thing. Anyway, Bernardo on the ball, finds Calvin Phillips. It's hard enough to get the ball off Man City's. Again, tried to quarterback one round the corner. His radar's not quite been in, but Kyle Walker at least gives a thumbs up for the attempt. It's the second time he's tried to float one round the back.
Yeah, and why not give it a try in this kind of situation? From Phillips' point of view, again, a bit of rustiness there from him due to his lack of game time, and City quickly win the ball back, although Laporte's run it out, well, not been able to keep it in play on the near touchline, so it'll be a Leicester throw. But yeah, this is what this game is for. The likes of Phillips, Cole Palmer coming on, Sergio Gomez we've seen come on late, get themselves some minutes into the legs, so as and when they are needed between now and the end of the season, they've at least got something in them rather than coming in completely cold.
I tell you what, it might be genius in the end from Dean Smith to be so bad in the first half and be so thoroughly and comprehensively beaten at 3-0 that he takes all his best players off, and then you've almost got half a chance. Anyway, here are Leicester, but this is Leicester team not so long ago won a Premier League. You know, they're not doing so well in the league right now. You know, I think they've got, for me, they look like they've got too many good players to go down, but I can say that till I'm blue in the face, and they still might. You need a little bit of luck. You need to find the right formation that suits the players. You need to get a bit of confidence from somewhere. It was always unlikely to happen at the Etihad. But again, I just thought, well, City might have been tired, emotionally spent, something like that. No, they got off to a great start. That John Stones volley was superb, wasn't it? And, you know, real collector's item for him. And then Haaland, a couple of goals for him as well. Too easy, really. And even though there's been a consolation for Leicester, that's all it's been. With 6 minutes to go, but we could have gone after about half an hour, really.
Yeah, as soon as that third goal went in, the result seemed to be so. And we have had the Leicester goal. Iheanacho's got his 7th of the season. There's maybe crumbs of comfort for Dean Smith to take heading into the rest of the season. I mean, you know, if no one's watched or listened to it, they look at the scoreline, 3-1. They think Leicester had given a good account of themselves and maybe fought fire with fire. That hasn't been the case, but you know, it's a lot better now than it looked, half an hour, 45 minutes ago for Leicester, who've won the ball back.
Yeah, Maddison now driving through goal side, and it's a good save by Ederson, expected back at the net to Bolt, and then game on for 5 minutes. That was sloppy from Man City. Ruben Diaz just trying to run the ball out. Maddison's been at it all this game. It's never given up. And there for him, I don't know, I think that shot might have been squeezing in near post. It's a good save from the keeper.
It is a good save. I wondered if Maddison should have been getting his head up to try and find Ian Akshaw, but I think Calvin Phillips had just closed that angle off, which forced him to go for goal. The angle was, as the seconds passed by, getting tighter and tighter. Ederson stood up well and made a really good save to deny Maddison.
Well, Suti getting marked by Kyle Walker, is a little bit bigger than him. A little flick on the near post, maybe an opportunity. Diving head comes in. There's a claim of handball there from Soyuncu, waved away by the referee, but maybe he didn't see that. Might be a penalty kick, and we'll need to take another look at that. The referee blows his whistle. He's listening for VAR. We're listening as well. Will it be game on? Will there be a penalty kick? Soyuncu believes it, but I'm not so sure. Let's take a look, Tom.
Soyuncu's diving header, he hits the hand. I think it's Sergio Gomez, but unlike the Ndidi one in the first half that was given Manchester City's way, his arms close to his body, it's a natural position. He's trying to tuck it away. I don't think this one will be referred to by VAR.
No, I was just hoping, somehow we'd get the big grandstand finish there. And Ndidi has run his race. He's gone off, and to be replaced by Patson Daka. Oh, we're going for blood now. So a striker on, and I like him, but for what it's worth. And he's a kid who does stay on side. But anyway, it's a bit late in the day to bring a striker on for a hold in midfield.
I should have done that, shouldn't he, as soon as they made it 3-1. Throw Daka on in a game.
Shot to nothing. Could have taken one of the three centre-backs off. Don't really think once they were 3-0 down they needed three centre-backs. Particularly bearing in mind that the wing-backs are not wing-backs today. They've never really got over the halfway line, have they? Either of Thomas or, Castagne's tried a bit more. I don't know what's happened to Pereira. Must be injured, I guess. Otherwise, I would have been certain that he would be somewhere near it. So I'm just going to score a beauty recently. Anyway, 88 minutes gone. It is 3-1. Erling Haaland and Jack Grealish both sharing a laugh in the dugout. They don't seem overly concerned. The job not quite done yet by their colleagues, but I think for me Guardiola did exactly the right things in taking those guys off, and it is a big game. Champions League, I think at this stage is more important to Man City as a club, I think, than winning another Premier League.
Well, it's the Holy Grail, the one big title they haven't won. Guardiola will be desperate to win it again. It's been a long time since he's won it with anyone too. So yeah, privately, you've got to think that is the real important one for City. Yes, they want to win the Premier League. Yes, they want to hunt Arsenal down, but most of them would probably say if they could only have one, that the Champions League would be the one this season they want to win.
Yeah, I would guess so. Anyway, you're playing that from the back, and Diaz is not going to invite Maddison in to challenge him this time. He chips it over his head, finds Laporte. He flicks it forward. Alvarez, nice little ball, and out to the right. He was brought down there though. Soyuncu gets a yellow card. He's frustrated. He thought he'd won a penalty before. That really would have been game on, but just certainly not been their day. I don't think they were set up particularly well. Certainly the tactics didn't work. I felt that Dean Smith was going to just draw a line in this anyway, and like you said, he probably didn't want to be in charge for this game. He would have liked to come afterwards. All right, what happened last week, lads? Well, never mind that. I'm here now. It's a daunting prospect. There's all sorts of ways to lose at the Etihad, but I think they were so meek and mild. It was a bit of a shame that, and certainly for the neutral, hoping for a game, hoping that they just might think. Sometimes I look at this fixture and think it's a free hit. Why not go for it? Why not give yourself a chance? We very rarely see a team go at it like that.
What I would say though is there's enough positives there, at least on paper, for Dean Smith to build on and to try and gee up his players coming into the big run of fixtures they've got coming up. They only lost 3-1 at Manchester City. They won the second half. They created a couple of decent opportunities. There is bits there that Smith can take and manipulate, if you like, into a positive to try and get his side, the supporters, the whole club on side.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think, personally, I wouldn't take anything out of this game for them. You know, I just think you look at it though and say, out the squad, they've got some good players. You know, and on another day against sort of Leicester team, they can get their goal forward going and make it work. I'd just have to draw a line. I wouldn't even bother watching the video if I were them. I don't think they'll learn too much. Anyway, I'm not sure they're going to play with the back three all the time either. Suter goes back to his keeper and Everson chips it out with his feet. With 3 minutes of added time, we've already had a minute of that. Here is Madison. It's a great through ball and an opportunity, and it's come back off the post. Iheanacho, they're nearly making it a squeaky bum time finish there. And it all opened up. What a ball from Madison. I'd be tempted to make him man of the match. He's been superb today. You know, a constant threat, an inch-perfect ball, and it required a finish.
It certainly did, and you know, Leicester's stock may have fallen for James Madison. Oh, he's not made his man. He goes down in the area looking for a penalty. It's Gomez who put the challenge in. He's not going to get it, but James Madison, that was the pass of the match, the pass of the weekend, arguably, to set up that Iheanacho chance. He's so unlucky to hit the post, but somehow in what has been a really tepid Leicester performance, Madison's stock, for me, has risen considerably in the game. Yeah, absolutely. He's kept on going, and lots of people around him just seem to have dropped off, and he just, you know, you'd make it off this performance, you'd make him the skipper in adversity, playing well. When it's seemingly it's all gone, that's the kind of courage and strength you want. I never thought I'd be saying that about Madison. I always thought he's a bit airy-fairy. 2 or 3 years ago, I certainly wouldn't be banging the drum for him, but he seems to have grown up and matured, and he's a real, you know, candidate for captaincy. Never mind Tielemans. He's played the skipper's knock today, and you know, he's about 89 out of 10 in a losing cause. An incredible performance. Anyway, shame for him. He's on the losing team, but he's going to be. There's just a minute left of the game. The City going through the motions really. And they're kind of not exactly down tools, but they've taken a lot of the silverware off the table. And we're looking at it. Grealish and Erling Haaland, man of the match. 2 goals out of 3 shots. Hard to argue with that, really. Well, yes, statistically, in that sense, he scored 2 crucial goals in the end. It proves City winning by 2. I mean, he only played 45 minutes, and he didn't touch the ball too often in the 45 when he was on, but got the important moments in the game, so you can't really begrudge him that. And I suppose there hasn't been a standout performer from a City's point of view. You've mentioned Madison, but realistically, a Leicester player, based on what we've seen, is not going to be given the man of the match. No, they're not. And well, there we go. Final scoreline as the referee blows his whistle is Manchester City 3, Leicester City 1. Pep Guardiola's team keep rolling on. They're within 3 points now of Arsenal. And yeah, thanks very much for joining us.